Welcome, everybody, to Live at the Hive, episode 214, I think. Live at the Hive, digital marketing from the trenches. I'm your host, Dan Nadelko,
And I'm Justin Maciel.
and it is just the two of us today.
Yeah, the two amigos.
There you go. There you go. Honeypot's longest standing bee, actually.
It's true.
That's true.
Both
I think
both the longest standing bees. Just kidding.
this is very true. This is very true. So today we are going to be talking about how to create content that drives conversions and leads. So what we're going to be talking about today is not the fact, I mean, you hear a lot of people say that you need a lead magnet, you should be building a lead list. And then you see some 4-point checklist that they've put together to show you, the examples that you should be using. In reality, there's more nuance to this conversation about how to understand what kind of content to create than obviously with Justin, how to design that from a user experience perspective. And then how to create a funnel that isn't a forcing function of a funnel, but how to create a funnel that actually mimics your users in real life. And that includes things like flywheel funnels, behavioral funnels. And I think the perception is that a funnel is this very linear thing that happens when in reality, it's not like that at all. No.
Yeah.
All right, while we wait for the teeming masses to arrive, Justin, how was your week?
It was good. Yeah, very busy. But it went by fast because it was busy, so that's a good thing. But
Very
yeah.
good. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to see. All right, so we're just waiting for everybody to join. So if you are on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube, hit that like, follow, subscribe button. Feel free to drop questions into the live chat. We're here. And if you're listening on the podcast, you can hit us up on our socials if you've got any questions. Please feel free to throw us a comment, a DM, and we'll get back to you right away.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
We're there
All right.
24/7.
That's it. And I actually listen. It's a little odd, but I listen to our podcasts every week, and I think I was kind of yammering. I was going off
Yammering.
topic. Yeah, a little bit,
Oh,
It
that's
is a
fine.
thing. All right, so let's just get into it. All right, so like we said, creating content is great. It's all fun. There we go. There we go. Benny's talking about it
Yeah.
right
Oh
there.
yeah.
Look at that. Follow, comment, and smash that like button. That's what we like to hear.
Yep.
We
I
gotta get
like
that.
the attitude.
We got to get that YouTube energy happening. That's what we need.
Full caps.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, what's on tap today? We're going to talk about understanding your personas, right? So, understanding your users beyond a demographic. Secondly, what topics are relevant? So, you're going to have to do some research, some question based keyword research are going to lead to not only just the sale, obviously, that's the end game, but to engagement and to answering people's questions and really substantially giving solutions to people without even asking for anything in return. I think that's like
Hmm.
an important nuance that we have with that.
Yep.
Then this is going to be where, Justin, you have done, I think, all of these, maybe not one of them.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
I
not one of them, but I
maybe one.
have done, yeah, pretty much all of them.
Yeah, pretty much all of them as well. And we're going to show some examples of a few different platforms and tools with some interesting ones. I'm kind of throwing those ones in. And then we're going to actually look at how funnels are developed and how the different types of triggers that you can use using platforms. And they're all fairly similar. ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, Marketo, a lot of them can do they have very similar features. So, we're going to be a bit agnostic on what platform, but we'll probably be talking about ActiveCampaign as the example, but you can use pretty much any of them. They're very, very similar overall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They pretty
Okay.
much standardized them around, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things too, as we're talking about it just a little bit here, is the idea that there are behavioral triggers. I think the automations that people think about are, did someone click, did someone open? But at the end of the day, what it is there's behavioral stuff. When you tag your site, all of them will do this as well. Did they visit another resource on your site, say a blog post or a Cornerstone content page? Based on that type of page, what you can do is you can then direct them into another series that would be most relevant to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
yeah.
So let's talk about persona development. So one of the things we do as well is when we're doing this, developing that persona, understanding your customer persona. I think some of the best people in your organization to talk to are actually your frontline customer support, your business development reps, obviously your sales team, and then ultimately, right, sit down with your customers themselves and ask them these questions.
Yeah. There's a bunch of ways that you can do that. Or obviously, with your own employees, that's you going up and talking to them. With your own customers, that's you kind of maybe giving them some surveys, that kind of thing, to really kind of know what they're into and where you can kind of hone that persona.
And I think, one of the biggest things that I see, and Justin, you probably see it too, is this massive number of assumptions on who the customer is, what their problems are, how the company has been successful to date. And then oftentimes a persona is created and then it's kind of like brand guidelines, right? They get shoved into the bottom drawer and they collect dust and nobody ever looks at them.
Yeah, it's never like a document that's like living where it's always being updated. I think a persona should always be kind of looked at and updated all the time rather than just kind of leave and go, you know?
Yep, exactly. And the same thing goes with brand guidelines, just not to get off topic. But
Yeah.
one of the things that we like to do, like I refer to our brand guidelines all the time just to be sure that everything's up to date. But you can also have, with a persona, is have like a persona champion within the company, right? And they can really champion and drive your persona development through into being used on a regular, consistent basis and updated. One other thing in persona development that is incredibly important is to have many of them, right? Not just one, but have a specific set for relevant customer types. Some people call them avatars, but personas. Yeah. And some of the things too is like, for example, a frustration might be that your particular persona is constantly at their schedule is constantly full. They can become frustrated and overwhelmed. Like, these are important things to put in there. It's a lot more than just say a product manager age 34 making £51,000 a year in London. There's more to that persona. Right?
Yeah, like is this the type of person that's like that your product would be casually viewed, or is this something that's like almost like instant? Like they'll probably need it like instantly, like something's wrong, so they'll probably need to grab it. Like those are different kinds of psychology that's kind of running towards your product, right? So you got to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Justin. One of the most important parts in your persona development is really understanding their pain points, right? And so, for example, one of the things with Honeypot that we absolutely know, we've got a comment from Yvonne. I'm going to pop it up and read it here. Things and people are always changing, so you need to look back at what you've created and make adjustments if need be. You can always keep working at it. Excellent advice. That's excellent advice. The reason I'm reading those back is because I was listening to the podcast audio and I realized, oh, we weren't reading them back. So there's kind of have this weird context on, on iTunes and Spotify, et cetera, et cetera.
Good call. Good call.
There we go. Always be improving. That's an important thing. Yes. All right. So just looking at it, the pain point, and why is the pain point so important? When you develop strong pain points that are real pain points, and just to go back to my analogy that I almost forgot about but didn't. With digital marketing, one of the pain points that we hear about all the time, I hear about it several times a week, is the fact that businesses, large and small, will hire several agencies or several freelancers. And what ends up happening very, very quickly is our potential clients and buyers have got 6 to 8 different groups to work with. Well, that becomes a job in and of itself, right?
Hmm.
And that's a very real pain point. The other pain point that we've identified long ago is that when you have multiple different groups working on your business and your brand, invariably you get, if you have 6 different groups, you're going to have 6 different voices, you're going to have 6 different styles, you're going to have 6 different people to manage as well. And it becomes a very frustrating thing over a period of time to manage and then to effectively get a cohesive view of what your communications in this case should be.
Yeah, even if you have like one person to kind of go over and look at it, everyone's different, right? So different voices are going to sound a bit different regardless. So it's nice to kind of get that kind of one voice there.
Awesome. And we have also, by the way, today we are also live streaming onto Twitch as well. So that one's on my personal profile at the moment, but feel free to hit up twitch.tv/Dan and you maybe see some old Overwatch videos of me destroying
Nice.
people late at night.
Yes.
All right. So also personality types are important. So you can look up personality types, look up their preferred channels, really dig into those frustrations, pain points, and then their motivations to help you understand what it is. Understanding Brandon saying a Honeypot gaming channel when? Maybe soon. You never know.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I like on Twitch, and there are some streamers that do it, but he's actually moved over to YouTube. His name is Devin Nash, and he talks all about the new world, the world of really new media, like the streamers and influencers. It's a great channel, so you should check that one out as well.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, understanding your personas, developing them, that's super important. Don't just put it down and put it away. Consistently look back at it. Create that clearer picture and don't be afraid to add more personas as you go down the road. Okay.
Agreed.
All right, and this now is important. Our next one is looking at what kind of topics lead to engagement and sales. And again, we see this a lot where there's an assumption that this checklist or this assessment or whatever it might be is going to be the right kind of a topic. And we've got, I think the one example, Justin, that I know that you worked on quite a bit was the saunas example that we've got.
Yes, yeah, and that one was a really cool pain point in the sense of instead of being like how do you build a sauna, which would be kind of what you'd expect from that kind of lead magnet. It was kind of going into the health benefits of it and going into kind of the details of things that people probably wouldn't have known about saunas, kind of teaching the client that way, and then it, since they kind of see you as that kind of leader with giving them that info that they haven't heard before, that's how you get those kind of leads in that way, right? So
Yeah.
that one was a good strategy there.
Yeah. So, and again, like this one came up and during an interesting time for this client, but at the time there was a pivot with the lockdowns and businesses being locked down, and probably not a great time to propose a high ticket price item directly.
Yeah.
That has the wrong perception. But the perception that we wanted to in selecting this was health, wellness, longevity, stress reduction,
Hmm.
right? And it's perpendicular. It's a benefit of the product. It's kind of the why behind the product versus, like you said, Justin, versus, oh, this is how you build the sauna. There's the model A439-B, like
Yeah.
whatever. If you sell somebody on the benefits of it, that's a more important and more critical strategy. And that's how you should really be thinking about the type of content that you're creating. And there's lots of ways that you can research this, question-based searches. You can use tools like Answer the Public to find out what questions people are really asking. Another tip to find topics, one of my favorites is researching on Reddit is one of my favorites.
Nice.
Yes. We
You're really
actually,
seeing the people's view that way.
that's 100% unfiltered. People will go on there and give you the real, spill the real tea on what it is that they're feeling. In fact, with a client of ours in the insurance space, what they had done was we were looking at health spending accounts versus traditional insurance. And we managed to find a very long, in-depth, detailed post, really cool, about this guy that broke down how he actually, it cost him more money to have insured benefits because of the way it was structured, but he broke it down in incredible detail.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that lead me was pretty much just his story, which was really nice, and I felt like it was really strong and did really well with that one.
Absolutely. Pip is saying, I'm a firm believer that a strong sales approach is to solve someone's problems. Solving a pain point builds trust, trust is relationship, relationships is sales. Yes, that's really well put, Pippa. I think the one thing that yes that we need to do is, from a sales perspective, which is ultimately where you take this stuff, right? That's the ultimate goal. Yes, solution-based selling. Give content and solutions away for free. It'll build trust. It'll
Mhm.
build authority for you, and it'll really show your stuff. There's a really great saying is that if you're an expert in your field, you're going to forget more in one day than most people will ever learn, right?
Yeah.
So you want to kind of put that one in your back pocket and think about it. But just to wrap this one up and to move on, so we can really want to spend some time digging into our examples here, is the assumptions that are made in marketing are often significant and substantial. And it's a road to ineffective marketing. And that's when we hear things like Google ads and Facebook ads don't work, right? It's because the assumptions have been made and it's not interesting in a very noisy world.
Yes.
Yes. Just like the assumptions when you're doing a brand development, right? You see this all the time. Like,
Yeah, but you assume that like this certain client is gonna like this kind of color. You assume that like this is gonna add this color is gonna add this kind of psychology, but sometimes it doesn't, right? So you gotta really think and ask, and you gotta do your research.
yes. On to our next point. Now, this one's really important, and it's a struggle across the board in terms of, okay, I generated a lead. The sales team called them right away, and they didn't want to book an appointment. It's like slow. Okay, okay. Take a deep breath.
Hmm.
Take a deep breath. Slow down. It's way too early in this lead generation relationship to be trying to pump for the final end goal at that point, right? We still need to nurture leads. We still, because they've downloaded the first step in a lead magnet and your content is there, maybe you've provided some great content. We'll use the saunas example for health benefits,
Hmm.
right? Is it's not that time to just come out and say, hey, when can I talk about your installation? It's like,
Yeah.
that's far too soon. And we often see that when a lead funnel is not really properly built out, that there's this kind of black hole and people are trying to jump on those leads in a very aggressive manner. It's really truly an ineffective way of going about things because, in fact, your investment that you've made to capture that lead is going to go away because you've been overly aggressive and haven't had a chance to nurture that relationship.
Yeah, and like April just did a comment saying marketing is like dating, which it kind of is. Like you want to build like a friendship with people because you have to think like as a person, if you're not going to ask someone a favor if you're not a friend with them first, right? So like that's you making that friendship, you nurturing with them, they'll sometimes come to you and be like, "Yeah, this is what I need," and then you didn't even have to come go to them.
And that's the idea when you build out a full funnel and you've really thought about the persona and you've really thought about this content and how you should be presenting it. It is like the early days of a relationship, right? The analogy that I like to use is if you were to drop down in front of your potential partner and say, marry me on the first date, if they say yes, you're probably in trouble,
Yes.
right? It's probably not a good thing at that point. So you need to walk through the phases of promoting solutions to them, and making these logical steps. Now, the important one here is in personalization. I want to kind of just dive a little bit into that from a discussion. Before I jump into that, Stacy's got a comment here saying marketing is relationship building. It could lead to a sale, but don't go into the ask right away because it's probably going to be a no. Right. Exactly. Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about behavioral triggers. So behavioral triggers, again, a lot of these platforms will have it both from a lead scoring perspective, but when you're able to track You're able to track. Well, this does happen. Pippa's just dropped a comment. Lowell, Luke, and I were engaged after 2 weeks. There is, lightning does strike. There's
Yeah,
love at first sight. It happens in business as well as in personal
yeah.
relationships.
But it was 2 weeks. It wasn't the day of.
That's true. That's true. And when people, businesses use paid advertising to back it, oftentimes that's why ad spends, especially in B2B, a lot of companies become dispirited about the performance of their B2B campaigns. The only reason that you're having an issue with this is because you don't have that correct funnel. You haven't hit the persona and you're not solving problems yet, right?
Yeah.
And that's an important thing. So when you're creating your funnel, one of the important things is to try to find, and this is where I will say, and I'm not shilling for them in any way, ActiveCampaign has got an incredible set of integrations that allow you to track personalized experiences and behavioral triggers. And you can do it by sentiment analysis, by comments on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can integrate in website tracking to see where they're visiting and what they're doing. So you might want to have branching logic, right? For example, let's use the saunas example again. So we started out with the health and wellness benefits. And then we could follow up with two options, right? The option one might be 20 additional exercise benefits to take in conjunction with your sauna routine, right? Like
Yeah.
what are the times you should be using it? Or you could say, check out some indoor or outdoor options, right?
Yeah.
Depending on which way that user goes, you can launch them into two completely different funnels altogether based on what they did in order to incite that. Oh, my old friend Greg from LinkedIn, he's saying, yes, love ActiveCampaign as well. Greg, it's good to hear from you again after a while. Hope you've been well. All right. April's got a comment here. I love ActiveCampaign. Depending on how users open or engage with your email, you can tailor your responses, which seems more personal. That's the entire goal around this. And we can use SMS text messaging. We can use behavioral. We can integrate with like literally thousands of apps. And we've also developed our own apps in those use cases where it's a custom platform. So really put some thought into that, into the funnel. And again, when we say funnel, don't think of it as this traditional step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I mean, those do exist, but you're probably better off going around a behavioral route to really identify that person behind the name.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're getting into the meat of it here.
Yes.
Yes, so I'm actually going to pull some of these up. So we've got several examples. And one of the things, like we said before already, you really want to think about the quality and the type of content, and it has to be really useful for users. And we've actually got some really great examples here that will allow us to hit on some very real pain points that exist today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. And I know Justin has spent a ton of time working on this one.
Yes, yes. This one was a massive one, but this one was has great content on it because first time homeowners. This one was for a realtor. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to buying a house, and there's a lot of benefits to first time homeowners that a lot of people don't know, and it's something that a lot of people are searching for most likely. Really easily because I'm sure the first time homeowner isn't just asking someone. I'm sure at this point they're Googling it. You know what I mean? So they're gonna go in, they're gonna search it. So you have this nice document that gives them kind of all the info that they need for buying that first home. And that yeah, like April saying that ebook was 17 pages of great content. So giving the client a lot of good free info, really telling them that you are the leader in this. You're and making the client more confident to buy a home because they know all the benefits and stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, he wants someone to buy a home, right? So if you're giving people the confidence to do that, that's amazing, right? So that was the goal here.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, when we talk about this, especially in real estate, you see this quite often. It's like, hey, let's calculate the value of your current home, like a Zillow. I actually saw a really great TikTok the other day that just kind of made absolute fun of this, where in many industries, and I think this is important, in many industries, as you start to research, you start to see patterns. And the patterns are very, very similar, which means don't use that type of a lead magnet. It's not unique,
Mhm.
right? It can fit inside of your funnel, but it's not unique at all. So you got to be careful because I constantly see, and unfortunately, like HubSpot makes great content. I've seen some of their lead magnet examples as being incredibly useless. Like, not to be mean to HubSpot, but if you have a one-page SEO checklist for your website, which says check your page title, check your meta descriptions, make sure your images use alt tags, right? Like, get out of here. You haven't
Yeah.
provided any value. And the danger when you're creating your content, if your content is super thin, the problem with the content being super thin is you've then alienated that lead, right? They don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
You've lost a ton of credibility. So it's not just as simple as just doing it. Actually, if many years ago, Greg, we worked on an NFL season lead magnet that was, I don't know, 65 pages long, I believe. It
Oh
was
my
it was
god.
monster. But these
That
are
poor designer. Just
these are
kidding.
these are yeah, exactly. These are so you can see in here in this example of this lead magnet. So it really is an in-depth guide. It talks about needs and wants, right? Gives really good references and places for people to jot down notes. Let's just keep going through this
Yeah,
a
this
little
one
bit.
was like both info and giving them like every single breakdown of what a house would offer them, and if that's a need, if that's a want, to kind of help them find it, which was really good. So not only was it giving them really good info, it was giving them like something to work with, like at home too.
Yes. Um, and this here, like this is a common one for first-time home buyers. A lot of first-time home buyers have no idea that you really you should never go shopping if you don't have the money to buy, right?
Yes.
Because invariably, what's going to happen is you are going to go out, find your house, and you're going to have to then go through an approval process, and you'll probably be beat out, especially in this real estate market that we're living in, right?
Yes.
Yes. I don't want to hate on HubSpot too much because they do good work, but April's saying I find HubSpot's tutorial guides lacking. Sometimes, no shade. When I am looking for a tutorial and I've given my email, I'm looking for a lot more in one spot. And again, meet the expectations. Don't just do a one-page, very thin um, uh, lead magnet. And you
Yeah, if
can
you're
see
gonna
here.
do it. Like give them all the info they need, you know what I mean? Don't be fully transparent with them, because if you have that like one pager, then people are gonna assume that you're not transparent with them and that you're missing things, right? And then that ruins the whole point of it, where you're trying to get them to trust you, right?
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And we've got bonuses and closing tips here, cleaning tips, like everything, how to customize your home, So it really dives deep. So this is really when you say something, and I think that marketers like to do this. Well, I know marketers like to do this, is like the ultimate guide, right?
Yeah.
My old friend Ollie Gardner started up a free course on public speaking, and the thing is like something you would expect to pay $500 for, and it's free, right? And so if you're going to say ultimate, be ultimate.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, and Ultimate is more than one page at least, guys. Come on.
exactly. Exactly. Yvonne's saying, and here I thought you just pay the money and get a home. I have to rethink my whole plan now. That's Yvonne's classic sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yes, and at the end of the day, if you do not have a designer like Justin and Paige and Lyndon on your team, like we're lucky enough to have over here, always remember one thing, and I think this is important. You want to obviously make it look as good as possible, but it's the content that trumps anything else, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and you saw like the in that example, it was very simply designed. It wasn't like something that was like overly aggressively designed. Like it was more content focused. Do I want to make sure that the content is the highlight that you're kind of reading through, and that is readable. You're not kind of putting too much around it. It was keeping it nice and simple. Nothing too like aggressive on the design sense and that.
Yeah.
on that.
Okay, Yvonne's got a great question here. I'd like to pop up just on this topic. So when building lead magnets, how much is too much and how much is too little? What do we recommend in terms of size? Would that depend on the topic? I think it depends on the topic, but I think
Yeah.
it depends. I think it depends on what expectations you're setting in the copy leading up to that, right?
Yeah.
There are times where a 45-second video or a minute and a half video is more than enough, right? But you're setting an expectation first, and it's the follow through on the expectation. And I think that's both related to the topic, but also at what point in the conversation am I in this topic. So, just as an example, when we put landing pages and content around this first time home buyers guide, we talk about how much content's in there. We give, here's what you're going to get. Here's what you're looking for, right? Like if you're looking for this, we've got these solutions here for you. So there's a very clear, transparent expectation of what it is that you're getting when you download this piece of this asset, right? So I think that's the most important thing. Set the correct expectation. Like there's another expectation you can set with your content in terms of the marketing language is this is only going to take 2 minutes of your time and it's packed with 4 key things you need to know before buying a home. Like,
Yeah.
okay. So then you can have short form content, but you set the expectation and you've delivered on those 4 things, right? Or you can say, here's 17 pages of everything you need to know when you're looking for your first home. And if you set that expectation, then you've nailed it. So
Yeah.
I think that's the nuance to that part of the conversation for sure. Okay, moving right on here. That's that one. Do, do, do. Okay, next up. So we've got is again specificity. This is another very important thing when you're creating content. And I think this is important in a lot of marketing, especially these days. Is generalities are death,
Yeah.
right? If you're being very general, like if I just said investment planning advice, what does
That
that
could be
mean?
anything.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You're talking about money, which is like core to all of our lives, right? Versus a guide for retirement planning or starting, or how about another one for the financial services community is how about 25 things you need to know if you're starting an investment portfolio and you're over the age of 50, right?
Hmm.
You've targeted a specific demographic. You've targeted a specific pain point, which is I'm 50 and I don't have any kind of an investment portfolio, and a clear expectation and a clear audience. And I think, there you go. Another one for financial services was, and this is an important one, is, you know, your guide to estate planning. Why haven't you got your will together yet? Is a ridiculous statistic. Something like 74% of all Canadians do not have a will in place, right? And trust me, through personal experience, there's nothing worse than going through an estate if someone has not got a will,
Yeah.
right? So in terms of financial planning, there's the specificity that gets you to a target audience that solves a specific problem, that gives you a specific talking point. And then when people fill out this lead magnet to get this, right, you've then got a really good profile of who it is that has downloaded this versus let's build your financial plan. What does that mean? I don't, that's, it's
That could be for
invasive.
anyone.
Yeah, it feels kind of invasive, right? Because that's my life. I don't know you. What are you talking about? And then when your leads come in fact, as you're developing this type of content, you don't know if they're in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 50s, and you don't know what their specific pain points are, which means you have to go back into that funnel. You're either going to be potentially talking to someone and not knowing anything about them,
Mhm.
right? Versus in these guides for like this very specific guide, this I know what these people they're looking about retirement planning. I would even suggest going one step closer in terms of specificity and going right to, right? Are you starting your retirement planning at age 55 or older?
Yep.
Right? You got 10 years, you got a decade. Yeah.
Yeah.
So specificity, incredibly important. So April's got a comment here that's great. There are so many different topics in the retirement space you could focus on. Each person retiring is a different pain point. Finding them all and writing a great guide can help expand your leads. And that is exactly the goal that we want to go for. Conversely, if you're looking for younger clients, and again, and this is just the example in financial services, is if you are a Gen Z and you're looking to start a portfolio, why self-directed investing like Wealthsimple and Robinhood is not a good idea, right?
Yeah.
That, in my opinion, I think that is a fantastic topic for some sort of a lead magnet, whether it's a video, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a PDF download. You've got to hit that. I would do that probably as a series of TikToks for lead magnets and then lead them to some other ideas, because that is where those people live and play, right? YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the thing is you're hitting people, if this is financial services and something that's incredibly popular, it's talked about on social, and Gen Zers especially are doing self-directed investing, but they started in one of the hottest markets in history. They don't have leverage, right? They don't have the spread, it's called. There's a lot of nuances to investing. So if I were in financial planning and investment, where we're seeing people move away from advisors and those types of things, over to self-directed investment tools like Robinhood and Wealthsimple, where I just, oh, hey, you know what? I'm buying Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're doing there, but there's strategies around that. So really think about the nuances that you can have in that space. And that example was just the financial services space.
Yeah. Financial specific.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, and again, I think this shows a few things. We gotta get some of your gorgeous work up on the screen here.
Yeah.
Because these ones, like some of these are, we do have some, but this one,
Yeah.
this one as well is like, this is a very simple design, but in-depth checklists, and in particular, one of the things, if you're looking to create content, like we see a lot, obviously, on webinars and not only live but virtual events. Technical checklists for marketers are really powerful. They work really, really well, because typically marketers that are charged with creating webinars, right? They'll have a platform at their disposal. They'll have the content at their disposal. They may or may not have a full production team at their disposal. Most often they do not, right? So it's like, oh, Jim, my guest who's in Florida, is on a really slow internet connection, and he's showing up at 180p and looks like 3 giant pixels, and they're live. And it's like, okay. But when you think about checklists, try to think about technical checklists. And when you do a checklist, I would suggest always with checklists, go into gory detail. Like we've got a website QA checklist that I think is over 100 points now, because it's just a,
Yeah, it's
gory
gross
thing.
how long it is, but it's great. Like it works.
It works because there's so many little things that you could miss along the way. So if you're doing your checklist style content, my suggestion and our suggestion is go deep into to the details, because you can say, you know, this one I've seen actually, and look just around the QA checklist that you see if you're in digital marketing and web development, they're terrible. It's like, check all the titles, make sure your images, make sure you're responsive.
Yeah, they're too simple. They don't go into like the specifics and the nitty gritty that you want. Like with the checklists, especially, like you want to like you kind of want to go above and beyond. Like in a sense, like you kind of want to like overthink things, because you'd rather want more on that checklist than less, right? Because the more is going to help, the less is not going to help people at all.
Exactly. And again, at some point, I will find and bring up Ollie Gardner. He is one of the masters of these insanely long lead magnets, but they're great. They take a ton of time to put together, but they're also evergreen, and they will pay for themselves. They'll pay massive dividends. So here we go.
Yeah, there's the health benefits. There she is.
Yeah. So, and again, when we're talking about this one, we're looking at perpendicular kind of thinking here. Think about the benefits, not the end product at this point, right?
Yeah, you're not right here. Like, yeah, maybe you're trying to sell them saunas by putting your branding in, but the whole point of it is not to like sell saunas to someone. It's to teach them about it, right?
Hmm.
So you're trying to give them a salesy without being a salesy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is having one of these is great, but you could have 4 or 5 of them
Hmm.
and talk about 20 exercise tips, right?
Yeah.
And then things you can do to use cold and hot treatments. And then you could talk even, and I would make this a multi-step, right? Because it's not just one conversation. If you're buying something at a price point between $4,000 and $25,000, it's not something you're going to sell right away. So you want to build up that trust and you want to build up that engagement. So create multiple steps in the funnel around health. And then another really good way to do this is to actually survey them and say, would you like more information? Like, do you have problems with asthma? Or
Hmm.
do you have cardiovascular problems? Well, that is, asthma is a cardiovascular problem.
Yeah.
Do you have a cardiac issue that you'd like to have addressed? And what are those issues, right?
Yeah.
And you can branch into these things and provide more value and more information. The point to which is to promote the benefits of these saunas, so you can then move forward with that.
Yeah, like you were saying before, like with the funnel kind of breaking into those little ones, right? You can kind of direct people. Maybe the first one you sent was the health benefits, then the second email you sent is two lead magnets, one that's about cardiovascular, one that's about respiratory, and then you see which one they're clicking. Then that takes them to your separate funnels there. So you got to get them in that sense.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to show something really quick. We got 2 more examples before we wrap it up. When you create a funnel, okay, you have to take into account things like downsells, upsells, and other behavioral components. That this is a funnel that looks a lot less like a funnel, looks a little bit more like a flywheel where it's
Mhm.
kind of branching out. But you want to have these areas in your funnel where, what if somebody engages down a certain path? Where are we going to launch them, right? Learn more about them because you're pre-qualifying, using content to pre-qualify your customers, learn about them. So when you're in the sales process, or when your sales team gets their hands on them, they've got a wealth of information at their fingertips, right? That's the goal of this. Not just to get the one. The perception is, and the perception that's sold in the digital marketing industry is that it's you got the lead, good job, pass that bad boy off to sales, and that's the wrong way to approach this. Okay.
Yeah.
One last shout out is a very there are quite a few different platforms, but I ran into this one and I really like it. This is called Score App, the smarter way to generate leads. It's really scorecard marketing. So they're interactive. You can see a few of these here. They're interactive, they're visual. They are, you could do assessments that then have different outcomes at the end of the assessment. So when you're assessing somebody, you should be giving them some kind of a score or some kind of an understanding. Instead of just saying, thanks, you got 10 out of 10, congratulations. This has the ability to have branching logic based on their answers and based on the content. So you can really learn a lot and actually provide a really good assessment that has a lot of value, as opposed to just doing a quiz. Right? It's got real advice and outcomes based on the inputs and the outputs, and you can actually score them there.
Nice.
Whew.
That makes it so
All
much
right.
easier.
It does, and it's they're visually they're pleasant, they're visually appealing. They look beautiful. You can use images and videos within them, so it's got interactivity, which is important. A lot of features there. So if you're non-technical and you're looking for a platform, check out the Score app. I think it's a really great winner. If you do have some amount of tech, the Thrive Themes platform has this kind of capability within it as well. So if you've got that on your website, you can do that as well.
Oh,
Ooh, there we go. All right. Well, that does it for Live at the Hive episode 214. We did it, Justin.
we did it.
We
How did we
sure
survive without
did.
Stacy?
I know. Well,
Yes.
and hopefully she'll be back up and running
Yes.
next week. That's our hope. We hope you did not get any emotional damage during your work week. So Anyways, thanks for joining us, everybody. If you're on, thanks to our Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter viewers. You guys make this thing all happen, and we do appreciate you. We will see you next week for episode 215 of Live at the Hive, Digital Marketing from the Trenches. Same B time, same B channel. Have a great weekend.
See ya.
Peace.